And good evening, everybody, and welcome to Going nuCLEar, full-blown coverage of the land, part of Collectin' and Connectin', Good Vibes Community. I am Ethan Greenberg, and alongside of me is a very special guest tonight, the one, the only, Mekka Don. Mekka, thank you so much for being with us here this evening.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. This is such a pleasure. If anybody doesn't know who you are, I had the pleasure of talking to you actually over the summer before the football season at Ohio State. We were talking a lot about what you've been doing in your career and where you've come from. And for those who don't know you, I'll just give a brief rundown here. This is a former Ohio State Buckeye football player, attorney, entrepreneur, entertainer, musician, and author. Buckle Up the song last year, the anthem for Ohio State as the Buckeyes rode the wave to the college football playoff championship. A documentary, Buckle Up, the soundtrack of champions, Buckle Up, the playbook, 5 winning plays for go-getters. Last year, before the college football playoff, you predicted the Buckeyes were going to win it. And I know what your prediction is already.
Mhm.
I've been following you here, so I know all that. We'll save that for a little later. We'll get your prediction so everyone can hear it here. And thank you to Paulie Campione for having us as part of Collected and Connected. Thank you for being on. And Mike, as always, from over in the UK, big fan there. Good evening as well. All right. I've done enough talking here, my friend.
Yeah.
First of all, how are you doing? How are you? Y'all ready for the holidays?
Yeah, man. I'm doing great, man. I'm excited. Obviously, Christmas is a couple days away. New Year's is a couple days away. Just found out today that I'll be going to the Cotton Bowl for New Year's, so I'm excited about that, man. It's perfect time. Perfect time of the year for me.
Yes, I did see that you are in fact going to the Cotton Bowl. Change one thing here. Just trying to get the screen right here. Hopefully this will fix it. I'm not sure, but we're going to go with it. Getting some comments here. My man Mike is always good about. He's like my off-site producer. He tells me when the things are messed up, and so I try and take the comments and fix things as we go along. But sometimes there's these glitches. But yeah, so you're going to be headed down to Dallas. When are you? When are you headed down there?
On the 30th. So I'll be there the day before the game. I have a couple of events I'll be hosting. I'm finalizing the next couple of days, and then I'll be there for the game, and then I'll probably head back on the first. So pretty excited.
Well, hopefully it'll be a good New Year's Eve. We don't want to think about the last time the Buckeyes played on New Year's Eve. That didn't end so well there. I assume the kids, the family, they're excited for Christmas. Yes.
Oh, for sure. I have two young kids, and my daughter's birthday was actually yesterday, so we got to celebrate
Oh
that.
well, a happy birthday.
Yeah,
How old is she?
four, four.
Oh wow.
So that was fun, and then we'll celebrate again with them here in a couple days too. So more presents, more fun.
Yeah, definitely. What was I going to say? And so that's always good. Holidays are good. Little kids are good. There's lots of presents there. I know that my kids are a bit older, so we travel down to my in-laws, and it's not the same when they don't get a bunch of toys and you're not filled to the rim
Yeah,
in your trunk, and you're like, how am I getting this there?
yeah. The energy is much different, I imagine, when they're young. I mean, they're so excited, and just even waking up and watching their faces. That's the joy as a parent. I imagine when you get older, it's probably not as exciting, but yeah, it's something I'm soaking up for sure.
Yeah, absolutely, as you should be. So, wanted to talk to you about a number of things here tonight because for those again who I just mentioned, you're a Buckeye guy. You played for the Buckeyes, but you're also a fan of the brown and orange.
Mhm.
And I thought I'd chat with you a little bit about what's going on with the Cleveland Browns.
Mm.
And I guess the first thing I would ask you is, what do you make of the crazy quarterback conundrum, the carousel that the Browns had even entering the season?
You know, it feels like I'm in like to the twilight zone sometimes when I'm talking about the Browns, because it seems like every single year we're having the same variation of the same discussion, right? As it relates to the quarterback situation. I mean, literally, when was the last time we were all aligned on what was going on I am a Browns fan. Yeah. When was the last time we were all aligned on what was going on with the quarterback situation? I'm talking about from Baker to Johnny Manziel to Flacco to, I mean, this just, I mean, when? So obviously Deshaun Watson situation, some people were happy about it when it happened. Some people were not. It's just, we're never truly aligned, and we've just never been able to get that position all the way right. Looking at the way that the season had started, I mean, we had 5 quarterbacks, if you include Deshaun. We had, Flacco, Pickett, then drafted Dylan Gabriel in the 3rd, drafted Shador in the 5th. It wasn't really clear what we were doing, what our plan was. I think some people think that it was clear that Pickett was really destined to be the guy, and then he got hurt, and that kind of flipped the switch a little bit. But the Dylan Gabriel pick, I never liked it. It didn't make sense to me.
No, it really didn't at all.
And I have no problem with Dylan Gabriel just as a person, but I just never thought that he was going to translate well into the NFL. And I thought there are a lot of, even if it wasn't Shador at that point, I feel like there are a lot of other pieces that you can get at the 3rd round draft capital. I mean, that's expensive capital. So it was just to me, I just felt like the Browns are just doing what the Browns have always done. There was no real clarity on what they were doing. And I think Shador is better than Dylan Gabriel.
I think we all do.
I think I've known that since the beginning, so it's not even like breaking news. And in some ways, I feel like they lucked up on Shador.
They did. They absolutely did.
Yeah, and so now when you're looking, so I don't know if you want me to go into the draft kind of for next year.
Well, I do. I wanted to get to that in a moment. Let me ask you this. So there's a lot of stories about why or how or what happened to Shador Sanders. He dropped all the way to the 5th round. And I mean, how can you explain that? Is it really anything about him on the field?
It's hard for me to be convinced that it's about anything strictly on the field. That being said, I mean, I think that Shador has his flaws that are apparent. He holds on to the ball too long, takes too many sacks, that type of thing, right? But it was never anything that made me think, wow, yeah, this guy can't play in the NFL. I just feel like this means these are things that need to be coached up and coached out of him, as is true for any rookie. Any rookie that comes in, whether it's Jackson Dart, who needs to learn how to slide, whether it's Cam Ward, who's, not necessarily performing that great. Even Tyler Shuck, he's doing well, but he had to kind of ramp up a little bit and sit and watch. That's what you should expect from a rookie. I think we've seen enough flashes from Shador with the kind of the limited sample size, offensive line, rotating offensive line, injuries, wide receivers who, I mean, are either young or Jerry Jeudy. And I think we've seen enough to where you could say, okay, this guy can play in the league. Now, the question, but what it takes, and if you follow football, then you know this, what it takes for someone to be successful at that position is a very, very solid infrastructure. And that goes from the personnel to all the way up to the front office. And then also just kind of the belief and the desire to build around that person and build around that person's skill set. Lamar Jackson is a perfect example to me. He's the type of guy that he could have flamed out if he had gone to an organization that didn't believe in him. But because he went to Baltimore and they decided, okay, we're going to build our offense around him and his skill set, he's been able to thrive. And yes, some people will say, oh, well, hasn't won yet, whatever. But he's obviously made that.
He's successful. He's been an MVP. The guy's successful. It's a team game. It's the truest of all the team sports. This may be the truest team sport.
100%. And the quarterback position is one. I mean, even if you look at Tom Brady, people talk about, oh, he was a 6th round pick. And yes, and he was a 6th round pick for a reason, because he didn't do enough at Michigan to make people think that he was going to be the GOAT. But he had enough of a good skill set and the right mindset, and then obviously was put in the right situation with someone who ultimately believed in him and decided, in an organization that decided to invest in him. And they invested in offensive line. There was never a year pretty much where the Patriots didn't have a top 5 offensive line. Same thing that happened with Peyton Manning in Indianapolis. They invested, and obviously I'm not saying Shador is those guys, but
right.
That is what it takes for guys to be successful in this league.
Right. You have to be in the right circumstances. You send a player to the wrong circumstances, and nothing they do is going to be successful. And I think I'll get to that because we're kind of talking about the current quarterback situation and what the Browns might be thinking about doing. And a good point here from Mike. He says, talking about Bryce Young, his first couple of years, a top pick. People were writing him off.
100%.
And he gets a different coach, and he looks pretty solid.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's a Hall of Famer, but he's not a washed up, get out of the league type of guy.
The other thing too is that and this is just kind of a function of, I think what's happened in society at large is that people are not taking time. People are so impatient right now with allowing things to develop. You see this even in the music industry. People don't want to invest anymore in talent. They want you to come as a finished product. And that's just very rare, particularly at the quarterback position. People are already saying after a few games whether or not you can play or not play. And it's like, no, that's not. Go look at Peyton Manning's rookie season. Go look at a lot of these guys' rookie season. It's just not. That's not how this game is structured. There's no way you're going to be able to come into not no way, but it's very rare to be able to come into the NFL from college. I don't care what program you were at and be able to just succeed right away. So I think, back to your original question, I don't think the Browns really had a true plan of what they were doing. I don't think they had a real plan for Shador. I don't think they had a plan for Dylan Gabriel, really. I think it was just, they were just picking guys, whoever they thought was best available or whatever it was. They just picking guys and then just try to make it fit later on. And then, so here we are in the situation where I just feel like, and then here we go again. Now we're going to go into draft season and who knows what we're going to do. So,
right, exactly. So you talk about that and, the front, all the way starting at the front office. So now Paul DePodesta, and we had no idea what he was doing. He's no longer with the organization. He's gone back to baseball. He was the chief strategy officer. He's gone back to the baseball and gone to the Colorado Rockies. So the question now that everyone is asking, and I'll ask you your opinion, Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski, do you think one or both of them will be back? And if not, if it's one versus the other, any thoughts on that? I personally think that Andrew Berry is pretty safe at this point. I know this past draft might have saved his rear end, but I'm not so sure that Stefanski is going to be back.
I think that I'm pretty much in alignment with you. I think that Andrew Berry is probably safe. I think he has good relationships at the top. And like you said, this draft, even with the drafting of Dylan Gabriel in the third round, I mean, they crushed it pick for pick. It was just insane. So I think that what he's shown is that he's built, he's building a foundation. Theoretically, this is what we hope that can be built off of, and maybe he'll get another chance. Stefanski, I think, is done after this season. And, some of it's not his fault, but some of it is. And I think at the end of the day, it almost doesn't even matter whether it's his fault or not. Once your voice becomes stale, once people aren't rallying around, once you're just not winning consistently, sometimes it's just time for a new voice, and new energy, a new outlook. Stefanski is he's not inspiring anymore. Even his press conferences, it's just like,
we got to do better, Mekka.
Yeah, exactly.
We got to coach better.
Yeah.
And
I'm not saying he can't go and do well somewhere else or, be a coordinator somewhere else. But just for the Browns, I feel like, it's just frustrating because I feel like in a lot of ways that we just keep going through the same cycle, right? It's the coach, it's the quarterback. It's not, it's ultimately you just wonder, like, are we really just cursed at the end of the day? Does it even matter, what we do? And I hate to say that, but I say
no, but you're not alone. And I think that so we've had this issue since Jimmy Haslam. Let's at least talk about the Haslam years. He came in and started hiring and firing people all over the place. Nobody was safe. And we were the laughing stock. Right. Well, then he makes this alignment. He always had Paul DePodesta. Yeah. They end up getting this tag team of Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski, and everybody's angry as if, hey, you need to get rid of these guys. You're being, they stink, blah, 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 and blah. Yeah. And it's like that guy can't win. But I think at the end of the day, Browns fans, what we all want is just for the team to win.
Yeah.
And I do think it's right that Stefanski has been a good coach, but maybe, like you said, his voice has become stale.
Yeah.
You need somebody, a fresh perspective, so another voice in the room. I don't know, the Eagles OC job. I don't know. He might not get along well with the wide receivers since he loves tight ends so much.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah,
And I think we just it's time for a new voice, and it's unfortunate. Sometimes things don't work out. I don't even think we have to get too much into the blame game. I don't even
no,
think we have to do that. It's just like, listen, it hasn't worked out. The numbers speak for themselves. Ultimately, this is a game about winning. There's a certain level of patience that you will get to build. But he's been here for a number of years, and we're just not seeing the results on the field. And
right. Yeah, I guess my thought, you tell me if you agree with this, because this is how I process it. The things that bother me the most have to do with the constant mistakes and what appear to be the lack of accountability.
Mm-hmm.
He can draw up perfect plays and have guys open, and guys don't execute. Okay, well, I know that falls back on the coach at the end of the day, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the thing that really bugs me is, how are these guys doing the same things over and over and over again, and nothing happens? I'm tearing my hair out over Bubba Ventrone.
Yeah.
I'm tearing my hair out over the special teams. And that's what really drives me nuts and says, this is just,
well, and here's the other
unforgivable.
Here's the other thing too, and I think this could in some ways be a fatal flaw for him. When you look at the Shedeur versus Dillon Gabriel situation, it's pretty clear to me, and I think most people, that Shedeur is better than Dillon. And
yeah,
even if you don't necessarily think either one of them is good, fine. But Shedeur is clearly better than Dillon. Makes more plays. He makes more plays downfield. Better ball. Can see, just better. And so it makes you begs the question: what were we doing for half the season?
yes,
Because if
yes.
Dillon doesn't get the concussion, I don't know if they even ever go to Shedeur. And maybe they do, but it was very circumstantial that we ended up even seeing him. And it validated what a lot of people had already been thinking, which is that Shedeur, and not just the Shedeur bros or whatever people call them, but just people who watch football. It's like, well, how did you ever have Dillon ahead of Shedeur for this long? It means that something is wrong with your evaluation or your leadership, right? It's one or the other. And so I think that in a lot of ways is something that also makes you question him. Is he even making the right decisions, personnel decisions on the field, especially at that big of a position? So I think that could be a fatal flaw that ends up hurting him as well.
Right. And the story we get as to who makes what decisions is always very muddy and whatnot, because he's so conscious of not throwing anybody under the bus.
Yeah.
But it really appears, and I think he has said in the past, Andrew Berry sets the roster, I pick who plays.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems to me all the moves that Andrew Berry made were to set it up where Shedeur Sanders was going to get on the field. Once they kind of had four quarterbacks in the room, they had to make a decision with one of the veterans. And they did that because Pickett got injured, like you talked about. Then he's like, all right, this season is going nowhere. We're going to move on from Flacco, let him have a chance to play, and make Shedeur the second quarterback. So it's kind of crazy. Well, what I'd like to ask you is this, because in the past couple of days, Jason Lloyd, who writes for The Athletic and is on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show, came out and he wrote, and kind of to paraphrase, that he is being told by some, I guess, people in the building, that Sanders struggles to understand what he's seeing at times, doesn't flip protections often, and doesn't have a feel for protection calls, or when there's a hot read, I guess. If he's having trouble doing that, one, do you see that? And two, is that something that really any rookie does right off the bat, or is that something that he needs coached up on?
It's frustrating when I hear any type of kind of in-depth analysis when it comes to rookie quarterbacks, unless they can't see the field, like Dillon Gabriel, right?
Right. Literally.
Literally. So I think there are going to be things that each quarterback is going to potentially struggle with. There's a very rare that you're going to get a perfect quarterback that
Right.
understands all of these things 5 starts into their rookie season. So to me, it sounds like every time you've been hearing kind of about Shedeur throughout the season, and it's been very weird, kind of the way you would hear stuff, what you were hearing, first team reps, no first team reps. He didn't understand the playbook, whatever it was. I just feel like there's a lot of these things that are kind of just being put out there in the media, and it seems as though it's almost deliberate to try to potentially justify whatever decisions may be coming later, right? For me, I feel like that those things are normal for a rookie. Now, again, I'm not in the locker room. I'm not in practice. I don't know exactly how he's being evaluated and what level of studying they're doing and so on and so forth, and what they're even measuring some of these things up against. But I watch a lot of rookie quarterbacks, and they struggle with those things. Look at what Phillip Rivers did last night, and it will show you the difference between a veteran quarterback who hasn't even played in 5 years and what they are able to do and understand the game. The game is, there's nothing he hasn't seen, versus someone like, and I'm not saying but Phillip Rivers torched the 49ers defense, and yeah, he threw a pick and stuff like that, but he torched them, and he couldn't move around. Like, it wasn't like the balls were like coming zipping out. It wasn't like he was so mobile. He was changing the protections. He understood everything at the line of scrimmage. That is what veterans are able to do. Rookies should not be expected to do that. There shouldn't even be a conversation really at this stage, 5 starts in or 4 starts in, about whether or not he's able to do those things. It's insulting, actually, in a lot of ways, because that's not what the expectation is. So to me, I feel like and I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I do feel like there are people within the organization that don't want Shedeur. And so they are leaking different kind of things at times to try to set up, like I said, and justify whatever it is that they're going to do in the future. So that's what it sounds like to me. Does that mean Shedeur doesn't have things to work on? Absolutely not. He has a ton to work on, as he should. He's a rookie. And not only is he a rookie, but he's a 5th round rookie that had to fight his way up to even get the reps that Cam Ward was getting throughout the season, preseason, to fight to get the reps that Jackson Dart had gotten way earlier in the season. These are the things that, people aren't talking about, and these are the people that they're comparing them to. So would you rather have Jackson Dart right now? I mean, would you rather have Cam Ward? Who is the guy, the rookie quarterback? I know Tyler Shuck is playing well, but outside of that, who is the guy that we're saying, oh gosh, this man, compared to this rookie, who is it? So it just seems like there's nonsense.
Yeah, I think he's doing, quite honestly, in my opinion, I was more excited about his potential, and then from what I've seen, for sure, above and beyond Dylan Gabriel.
Oh yeah,
I just didn't understand that pick. But when you compare him to the rest of the rookie class, I still think he's doing pretty darn well. And you take into consideration the circumstances.
Yes,
we've got a banged up offensive line.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have a legit wide receiver 1.
Mm-hmm.
We do not have Jamar Chase. We do not have Justin Jefferson out there. Jerry Jeudy has been disappointing, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
And with the blocking up front, not being able to create holes for Judkins, and dang, Winshawn, that just stinks for him going out. But yeah, so keeping all of this in mind, everybody's talking about the upcoming draft.
Mm-hmm.
If the Browns are at the top of the draft, and the 2 quarterbacks I'm going to bring up are Fernando Mendoza and Dante Moore, because they seem to be the likely top 2 quarterbacks in the draft class at this point, at least.
Mm-hmm.
Do either of them show things that are make them so far and above and beyond better than Shedeur Sanders that would be worth taking them? From what you've seen, just your opinion.
In my opinion, the answer is no. No. That being said, I'm not saying that they won't necessarily, either one of them won't necessarily have a better professional career than Shedeur Sanders. But your question is a nuanced question, and I like the way you asked it, which is, are you seeing enough that makes it so justified that they decide to use that high of a pick,
right?
And then versus other areas of need that we clearly also have? And my answer is no. And here's the other thing. The 2027 quarterback class is loaded. I mean, Julian saying Arch. I mean, you got Sellers. You got all kinds of dudes in that class. And so my thinking is, let's give Shedeur a chance in 2027, 2026. Let's try to build a roster with the talent that we need, offensive line, wide receiver. Let's try to actually do that. And let's see what happens. And if Shedeur does not become the guy, and maybe you can take a quarterback late, just, I don't know, or trade for a veteran quarterback, whatever it is. Deshaun will probably be ready. I don't know what's going on with that situation.
There's no escaping it.
And then
there's no escaping it, Mekka.
Yeah, and if it doesn't work out, then first of all, Shedeur doesn't cost you a lot, and you can 2027 you go and grab one of these guys, and you've already started to build up the other parts of your roster as well, and puts that guy in a better situation. That to me makes the most sense. I feel like it's a pretty easy decision, honestly.
Yeah.
I think Mendoza, and I think Mike just said this too. Mendoza comes in. You think Mendoza is going to come up and be able to do anything with this team? Is Dante Moore going to be able to do anything with this team? They're not going to look that much different than what Shedeur is going to look like, because they're going to suffer from the same issues that the other Browns quarterbacks have suffered from, which is inconsistency, offensive line play, lack of wide receiver one, as you mentioned. I mean, come on, man. Like this doesn't seem that hard of a decision to me. But I know a lot of people who don't like Shedeur, they want him out of there.
And that's an entirely different subject. I don't understand the whole thing with people who don't like him or do like him. But this is funny. Someone asked, and everybody, thank you, everybody who's tuned in. What do you guys want for Garrett? $100 million. Oh, sorry, that's Austin Powers. Austin Powers. I guess I'm aging myself out here, and so I guess let me ask you this thing. I want you to play GM for a minute. If you were making the pick for the Browns first round this upcoming year, we've got two picks. We've got our own and we've got Jacksonville's. Who are you taking? Would you go wide receiver? Would you go OL? And do you have a specific player in mind? I know I'll share my my idea is wide receiver at the early pick, our pick, and take OL, offensive lineman with a late pick.
Exactly. 100%.
I want Carnell.
Me too. Carnell Tate, man. Come on. There's certain players that drafting is hard. Okay. But it's not as hard sometimes as people make it out to be. And I think that there's certain players, positions, and I guess programs that make it kind of easy. Wide receiver from Ohio State. I mean, that has got to be the safest in the last decade, at least. And you can go way further back than that if you want to. But even if you just want to do the last 5, 6, 7 years, that's like almost a can't miss position. I mean,
the only time that they miss is when the Browns draft one of them, and it happens to be, unfortunately, Brian Robisky. And I love the dude at Ohio State, but he just wasn't the best of the best. I mean, but you're right. Right now, that is such a great position group and has been for a long time. That seems like so logical.
It is. And again, it's not even just like, okay, he's an Ohio State wide receiver. It's also just put on the tape. Watch the guy, listen to his teammates, listen to his coaches, watch what he does. It's not just because of Jeremiah Smith. He's doing stuff in double coverage, making unbelievable catches. His route running is elite. It's already NFL ready route running. His understanding of the game, the type of person that he is. It just seems like those are the type of guys you want on your team. It's like a Mekka Ibuka. It was hard, right? Garrett Wilson. These are good, Chris Olave, high character guys who had also amazing amounts of production. And it's no surprise to see them thrive. So I would love to get someone like Carnell Tate, who's a pro. He's already operates like a pro. And then, like you said, with the second pick an O lineman, I'm not necessarily sure where we'll be with that. Now that Jacksonville looks like they're going to win the Super Bowl.
Oh my gosh.
but,
But that points to the idea of you switch a coach, you get a different voice in there, and suddenly, all of a sudden, they're winning. The crazy thing is they made the trade with the Browns to get Travis Hunter, and he really hasn't factored into why they are doing better.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's because they got Greg Newsome from us. I think that's what it is. It must be the Greg Newsome vibes.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I don't know, man. It's just, but I think it goes to the point that we were making earlier about just opportunity in the NFL. Trevor Lawrence, even just this season, at times looked like, God, this guy is just a bust. And then sometimes it clicks, man. These guys all of them have a certain level of talent that just, if they're given the right scenario, right circumstances, right coaching, confidence, if they're given confidence, they can succeed. I always tell people that the times that I played the worst growing up in sports is when I was looking over my shoulder every time I made a mistake, thinking that I was going to come out, and that's you can't build somebody's confidence in the league like that. So, yeah,
I hear you. Well, that is I love it. That's great insight here talking about the Browns. But you know what? It's time to move on. Let us talk a little bit about the Ohio State Buckeyes and the college football playoff, because that it's more fun, I think, to talk about a winning team than it is to talk about one that is not doing so successful here. When you were on when you were on the podcast this summer, we were talking at that point about, well, what's going to happen? We've got a new offensive coordinator, a new defensive coordinator. Jim Knowles and Chip Kelly leave. They bring in Matt Patricia and Brian Hartline, and seems like it was a pretty good. It worked out pretty well. Yeah. I think it worked out pretty well, especially defensively. And Brian Hartline, well, he is headed down to South Florida to be a head coach down there. And you had said you were hearing this. You've got some listening ears about Hartline and whether or not he would be calling plays and coaching, and he is not going to be calling the plays at the Cotton Bowl when Ohio State takes on Miami. I think I know your answer to this, but do you think this was the best and right decision for Ryan Day to take the play calling duties?
100%. And the reason why is twofold. And Urban Meyer actually talked about this a little bit too, either today or yesterday. But first of all, Ryan Day has a lot of experience as a play caller. So it's not as though he's just taken over because he's just there. He's done it, and he's done it very successfully. And some people think he's been unsuccessful at it at times too, which, I think if you coach long enough, you'll have those stints as well. But he really, really understands the offense and understands what, kind of our personnel and what we need to do. So if we were bringing in a new person at this time, I think that would probably take away from some of the continuity. And he's been involved throughout the season as well. Anyway, it's not like he's just now inserting himself into it. Secondly, I think that Brian Hartline taking that position at University of South Florida and then staying through the playoffs. Initially, I thought, oh, wow, that's noble of him to do that, to stay with his guys and to, finish what he started and all that type of thing. But that, as I started to think about it, I was like, no, that's a big conflict of interest, even just from a timing perspective. And again, this is not taking anything away from Brian Hartline, but just think about it. You had, essentially since the Big Ten championship, I guess the day after, you knew that you could either play Miami or Texas A&M. The amount of film study that goes into that when you know that there are two teams that you actually have to potentially prepare for. You can't wait until after the game to start preparing. You have to prepare for essentially two teams. The amount of time that actually takes to make sure that you're putting together and installing a certain game plan, understanding their personnel for both teams is a lot. And you're talking about a guy who we've seen him on the private jets in South Florida. We've seen him, moving around, and that's what he's supposed to do. He's as Urban Meyer said, he's a head coach of an entirely new program in a different state. Not to mention, trying to get your family set up and giving offers to new kids and getting ready for the portal that opens up.
Yeah.
And then offering Jeremiah Smith's brother, who's an Ohio State commit, I thought that was a mistake timing wise for him. And just because for people who were rooting for him, I think that put a bad taste in a lot of people's mouth. So I think that at the end of the day, it really just comes down to just all hands need to be on deck. You're trying to go win a championship. This is not the time to be playing around and trying to figure out who's committed, who's devoting the time and who's not. So yeah, obviously to me, I think it was the right decision, and hopefully it ends up working in our favor.
Yeah, is it gonna? Do you think it will change much in terms of the operations and the overall game function for the offense specifically? Having Ryan Day now have to go back to doing the play calling.
Not so much, because I know that he's been involved throughout the year as
Okay.
well. So I'm just not sure to what extent. But and even now he's still saying it's still going to be a group effort, and so who knows what that ultimately means. But I think that this is the best way that we'll have a certain level of continuity, and I don't see that it will change a ton.
Okay, and I know that this is a big issue, so I don't want to make this like a huge thing, but we're talking about Brian Hartline. We're talking about the timeline of recruiting and when the college football season ends. And you've got the situation down at LSU or Ole Miss and LSU with Lane Kiffin. He's not coaching his team in the playoffs because he was offered and then accepted a job at LSU.
Yeah.
It affects so many different things.
Yep.
Is it me? Am I crazy? What would stop them? I know there's early enrollment, right? And guys get there in the spring. But what would stop them from saying, look, like the NFL, when the season is still going on, there's no tampering. You're not talking to coaches who are still coaching.
Yeah.
And if you want that coach, you have to wait.
Yeah. I think what stops them is there aren't any adults in the room, and I hate to say this. I think that, at least with the NFL, you can look and you could see that with the NFL, you can look and you can see, there's a union, right? There's, collective bargaining. There are an entire entity that's there to protect kind of these interests. Sorry, give me a quick second.
No, you take care. Hey, you got things to take care of. Look, kids come first. Kids absolutely come first.
Yeah. So I think, that we don't really know who's governing college football. Is it the NCAA? Is Congress going to have to get involved? Who are the people that, are ultimately making these decisions? And that's one of the hardest things to kind of understand. So it's, who is it that's going to come out and say, all right, this is what the calendar is going to be? Ultimately, I think, hopefully it'll be the NCAA, but NCAA is losing a lot of its teeth. And it's just unfortunate when you see what's happening. It's like the adults, I always say this, like who are the adults that are in the room that are going to come in and really address the real issues that are happening in college football? People want to talk about the portal, and they want to talk about NIL, and they want to talk about all this stuff. Well, listen, this all happened because the adults mismanaged this from the beginning. That's
right.
So I don't blame a kid for doing anything that the kids are doing. The adults, like you said, are leaving mid-season. So what do you think a kid should do? You think a kid? What are we doing? So it's actually very frustrating to watch this happen, because there's nobody that's coming to save us. And I fear that the further we get away from that, from just the basic principles of just understanding, you don't even have to be a college football fan to understand, maybe we should wait till the end of the season, and maybe we should push the portal back till after the playoffs, instead of having teams that are in the playoffs deal with the portal. I feel like the further we get away from it, the harder it's going to be to reel back in. So it's very frustrating to be a college football fan right now.
It is. It's absolutely crazy, and I'm not near as close to it as you are. And I just watching it, it defies logic. Mm-hmm. It really defies logic. We're in the second year of the 12-team college football playoff,
mm-hmm.
and they adjusted after year one. They made an adjustment on how teams were seeded,
mm-hmm.
and it was based on the ranking, mm-hmm. and nothing. And not the other matters where it was last year. The 4 highest conference champions, ranked conference champions, were the 1, 2, 3, 4 earned a bye. They fixed that.
Yeah.
But then this year we run into some problems where you end up with 2 group of 5 teams in Tulane and James Madison. The ACC was weak, and the loss by Virginia in the conference title game, that's a debacle. The conference title games at this point. And then Notre Dame, they get bumped by Miami. It kind of, probably a lot. It's based on the fact that the first week of the season they played each other and Miami was victorious. Notre Dame decides to turn down a bowl game. I guess what's the fix?
So it's a loaded question for me.
Sorry.
Because the fix to me is something that's never going to happen.
Okay.
And it is, we don't need 12 teams in the college football playoff.
Okay.
Once we went from 4 teams to 12, I knew that college football, as we knew it, was going to become very, very different. Because at the end of the day, the question you have to ask yourself is, what is it that we're trying to do? Are we trying to truly identify who's the best team in college football? Because we know every year, it's been very clear, there are not 12 teams that can win the national championship. So that can't be it. It's not that we're just trying our best to find the rightful winner of all of these amazing teams. What we're trying to do is, as Mike said, this is all about money. It's all about revenue. It's a revenue sharing, more games, more excitement. They're trying to, the tournament concept brings so much money to so many different people. And the unfortunate reality is that, even if we say, okay, yeah, we're just going to pick the best 12 teams, that's fine. And that's probably a fix to what we saw with JMU and Tulane. And I think that there isn't still an opportunity. I'm not banging on the G5. Like, I think that there's still an opportunity for them to get in there. But I do think that you have to prove throughout the season that you deserve to be there, right? So you have to play Power 4 teams and beat them, right? And prove that you can hang with that level of competition. I don't think you can play a G5 schedule and say, oh, we're 12-1, we deserve to be in.
Right.
Hold on real quick.
Hey, take your time. Hey, everybody, again, thank you so much for all that are tuned in here and commenting. Really do appreciate that. Once again, we are here with Mekka Don, talking all things Browns and Buckeyes here. So continuing on, we're talking about the kind of the fix or the craziness of what you could potentially do with with college football.
Yeah. And so they're not gonna change it. So okay, so what? And the why I said this is a loaded question is because not only are they not going to fix it, which is let's actually get back to the essence of what we're trying to do. I even like 4 teams, 6 teams. I could even deal with 8 teams, maybe. The essence of what we're trying to do, which is, it wasn't necessarily fair maybe to just have the top 2, because maybe there's some other teams that could have got there. So I kind of understood 4. Once you start going up and up and up, then I realized that it's not about that anymore. And the reality is it's not going to stop at 12. We're going to have 16 one day.
Yep.
One day we're going to have 24. It might even be the top 25. And it's just going to kill. And this is the thing that bothers me. And it probably sounds elitist in some ways because I'm an Ohio State fan and Ohio State's generally relevant. And so if you're a school that's, doesn't really generally get this type of opportunity, maybe, you might feel like I'm being elitist, but what made college football? This is the thing that people need to understand about college football. College football and the NFL are 2 different sports. They're the same sport as far as football, but they're 2 entirely different things, 2 different concepts. The NFL is built on, and it's unfortunate, but this is the reality is the reality. The NFL is built on the idea of parity. Everybody has the same amount of money, theoretically, same amount of draft picks. It's designed for everybody to kind of go 9-8, 8-8. That's kind of what it's designed. And then, other teams are going to figure it out. They're going to make better trades. They're going to make better draft picks. They're going to develop better. They're going to figure it out. And when you have that level of parity, you are going to have teams that win the division at 10-7, 11-6. They can lose 6, 7 games and still make the playoffs and still be worthy of that, because that's the best of the best playing in a theoretically parity-driven circumstance. the college football is not built that way. And although there are maybe goals or hopes for it to be built that way, it's just not built that way. And part of what makes college football so amazing, what it's made it amazing to me and historically, first of all, is the rivalries, the pins and needles that you would sit on during the regular season games. Oh my gosh, if we lose this game, we may not ... right? Now you're putting yourself in a situation where in college football you can lose 3, 4, especially when they start to expand. So now we're trying to turn this thing into something that it's not. Now it takes away the pageantry. It takes away the like I said, the pins and needles, the margin of error. It takes away the meaning of rivalry games. It takes away the meaning of conference championships. It takes away everything that has made college football special and has now dumped it into March Madness type of concept.
Right.
And that's not what college football is.
No, the drop off in basketball versus the drop off in football is much bigger, much more dramatic. And I guess I had thought about this, and I think when you were on TikTok Live, I said, what about a college super league? You know, like literally you have maybe 20 teams or what a setup in an NFL model. Because the other problem I see is, so you have Steve Sarkisian complaining about, well, we're not going to schedule tough games.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, that's not the point. I want the best teams to play the best teams. I don't want them worried about, if I lose this one game, I'm done. I'm done. I like that idea, but like, go after it. Go full bore. Don't schedule. I love that teams like in the MAC get money for going down to Ohio State and taking a BTA there.
Right.
But, it's something that I could say, hey, well, look, let's have the best of the best play, and they're in a league, and we're not, and it's separate and apart from the other sports in college, but that's just a random out there thought.
So there's another component to this, which is going to fall on a lot of deaf ears because of NIL. But the other thing that people have to realize is that, yes, there are guys being paid, but there's still no structure to how that's happening. There's nobody bargaining for them. There's no collective bargaining. There's none of that. So, and then even on specific teams, there's not a lot of parity even within the team in terms of what guys are making. That's true in the NFL as well. But now you're asking these guys to go from 12 games to 16?
Right. That's a big jump.
You're asking them, and you're not sharing. Well, as far as I know, there's no clear idea of how the revenue is going to be. So you're asking them to essentially become professionals, which I think they've been indefinitely for a long period of time, just not compensated as such, with no real structure, no union, nobody that's actually protecting their interests. But you're going to keep expanding and keep asking more and more of them. And the reality is, the other thing you have to remember is the safety and the danger. These kids are 18, 19. You obviously have some older guys than that, but putting them through that grueling schedule in a sport like football, I don't know, man. It feels wrong to me. In basketball, it's different. Basketball is definitely a physical sport. Guys, they can play 30 games in college basketball and March Madness, and but it's not the same as football. Every time that they step on that field in football, they're risking,
Definitely. Well, I know we're trying to keep this to, tight and keep it to an hour. So, I want to move forward a little bit here. Yeah. We had drama on National Signing Day with Legend Bay. But now he's saying he's going to Ohio State. Apparently his mother wouldn't sign the papers. He then says he's going to Tennessee, and then he uncommits and recommits to Ohio State. So that's crazy, right? Crazy. Is that just a bad, crazy situation?
Yeah, I look at it and I just, I think that everything that I feel like I'm seeing right now in college football is a function of, or in some ways related to just the broader issues in society, right? You have where there's money, there's going to be opportunity, and where there's opportunity, sometimes there's going to be greed. And I don't know all the ins and outs, so I'm not, I don't want to speak specifically on that, but you imagine that in a scenario like that, people are figuring out whatever way they can to get to you, whether it's through your parents or your friend or your sibling or whoever. And people are probably making deals or trying to make deals and with parents and other people to try to influence their kid to make a certain decision. And a lot of times the kids probably end up being aligned, or at least maybe behind the scenes being forced to do something that we don't even necessarily know, so we don't hear about it. But this is the one that happened to play out in public. And so it was crazy to see how public this situation became. Very glad for him, though, that he ultimately has signed officially with Ohio State now. And I don't think that's the end of his troubles necessarily in his personal life with his family, but at least from what he, felt like he wants to do for his next step, I'm happy that that's worked out.
Right. So we could spend an entire hour talking about Michigan and what's going on there, but let's skip ahead because I do want to talk about what's really what's up next here. Ohio State and Miami at the Cotton Bowl in the college football playoff quarterfinal. Miami gets over Texas A&M on in a struggle there. I don't know. How much did the win, do you think, did that play into the offense? I know it reaped havoc on the kicking game, but both teams were anemic.
Yeah, I think that I think it's funny when you see scores like that. Sometimes you tend to just think, oh, it was a bad game, or these teams suck or whatever. And I don't look at it that way. I feel like it was just good defenses and just offenses that have struggled at different points in time throughout the year. I think that's kind of the game kind of made sense to me.
Okay.
I look at, so I'll stop there because I just want to make sure I answer that specific question. But it made sense to me. I feel like they're two defenses that were tough and couldn't really find their way offensively. There's probably some wind issues, and some games just play out like that. You look at Ohio State and Indiana, same thing. I think the defense is kind of dominated. It was
right.
A low scoring game. It doesn't mean it's bad football. It's just, sometimes defense wins.
It does. It definitely does. And you mentioned Ohio State, Indiana, the last time out, the Buckeyes lost in the Big Ten championship. That was a close battle there. And I don't know if you play that game 10 times, if you get that result, who would win more or less or whatever it is. But as you look at this matchup with Miami, are there any things that have you concerned as an Ohio State fan, or which team has which advantages here? And I just wanted to also ask, I see that Tegra Shabola, the starting right guard, he's injured and will be out, if I'm reading that correctly.
Yep.
And Gabe Van Sickle, who replaced him in the Big Ten championship game, is going to be called upon, as well as Joshua Padilla. Just kind of putting that out there. But strengths, weaknesses, what do you see out of this matchup here?
Well, I tweeted a couple of days ago that this game is not going to be a blowout. And I think that there are some Ohio State fans that really believe it's going to be. I've seen scores like 37-10 and stuff like that. There's no real basis to me for that belief, particularly because I think Miami's defensive line poses a lot of issues for Ohio State. I think that the game planning is going to have to be very, very on point. And then in-game adjustments as well, because Miami's defensive line, they're fast, they're athletic, they're vicious. And so I think we're going to have to be able to run the ball effectively well, Ohio State, and, play action. We're going to definitely have to use that to our advantage as well. I don't think that Julian Sand is going to be able to sit back there and 7-step drops and have enough time to make plays with Jeremiah Smith sprinting down the field. So I think it's going to be a tougher game on that side of the ball than people think. That being said, I do think that if Ryan Day kind of becomes the kind of quote unquote killer Ryan Day, right, and really lets it hang out, I think that Ohio State can have success against them. I mean, we've seen other teams have success against Miami, but they're a very tough defense. The flip side of the ball, I think Ohio State's defense is going to pose a lot of problems for them as well. I like their running back, Mark Fletcher, but I do think we'll be able to put Carson Beck in a couple of uncomfortable situations and potentially turn him over. I think that could be probably part of the difference in this game. Miami boys, they're jacked up, man. They want to play against Ohio State so badly for so many reasons. Historically, the Jeremiah Smith thing, yes, the fans are talking crazy. They really think Ohio State's overrated. They really believe that they've done something now that they've beaten Texas A&M. So that's kind of funny. But I do think that this game will probably be closer, at least early on, first three quarters or so, than some of the people, bookmakers or whatever, think. But I do think Ohio State has the edge, and ultimately, I think they have a better offense, and I think just as good of a defense, if not better. So I think edge Ohio State.
Okay, yeah, that's very fair there. I mean, obviously, Reuben Bain Jr. is going to pose some problems. I know Malachi Tony, he is a heck of a speedster.
Mm-hmm.
Heck of a speedster.
Talent all over the field, but sometimes, talent isn't always enough. That's why it's called, like you mentioned earlier, in another context, it's a team game. So you got to put it all together.
Okay, gotcha. So you think Ohio State pulls this one out? Now, again, I led off at the beginning and talked about the overall college football playoff. Mm-hmm. Well, actually, let me ask you this, or let me get quick picks here. Oregon, Texas Tech in the Orange Bowl. Who you got?
Oregon.
Okay. Alabama, Indiana in the Rose Bowl.
Indiana.
All right. Ole Miss, Georgia. Who we play? If Ohio State, if you predicted them to win, who will we play in the semifinals?
Georgia.
Okay. Then you're down at, so then you're talking about Oregon, Indiana in one semifinal. Oregon, Indiana. Who you got?
Oregon.
They're going to get the rematch. They're going to get revenge on Indiana.
Yep.
And then Georgia takes on Ohio State.
Ohio State.
All right. Final game, Ohio State and Oregon for the national championship. Who you got and your score?
Oregon will lose to the Buckeyes. Ohio State wins that game 27-21. I think it'll be a close game, an exciting game. I think Ohio State pulls it out.
I love it. I do love it, and I am hoping that your prognostication comes to fruition once again. We have covered an awful lot here, and I just want to, again, thank you for being with us. And I also wanted to, again, just give you an opportunity, let everybody know, again, kind of what you've got going on. Like, what kind of projects are you working on? You said you've got some events planned down in Dallas. What's happening? Please take the floor and let everybody know all about that.
Thank you. Well, first, make sure you grab my book, Buckle Up the Playbook, 5 Winning Plays for Go-Getters. That's on Amazon and also on my website, shop.mekkadonmusic.com. That book is actually, if you're looking, it's right here.
And it is a fantastic read, guys. I read it this summer. I wrote up a plan. It's fantastic. It is, everything is attainable and simple, and you look at it, it all makes sense. So yes, I can personally vouch for Mekka about his book.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And definitely check out the documentary that we did on last season, championship season, and my life, and the Buckle Up movement that I created at Ohio State. That's on my YouTube. It's called Buckle Up, the Soundtrack of Champions. So you can check that out on my YouTube, Mekka Don Music. I will be in Dallas, so if you guys are out there, make sure you holler at me. I have a couple different events that I'll be hosting on the 30th and on the 31st. So follow my social media for updates on that. I also have a project I'm working on for 2026, but I can't mention it yet. But it will be something that I'll definitely let you guys know. So make sure you're following me on all social media. It's at Mekka Don Music, MEKKADON Music. That's all my social media. So I appreciate it, man. And this has been great. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And I'll want to hear about this project you are working on. Now, this has been fantastic to get your insights on all of this. You're so active and you speak so, everything you put out there, I really appreciate it. It's enjoyable. And not only is it insightful, but it's also entertaining. And I'm really glad that I've had the opportunity to get to know you and have you on here the second time you've been on one of my podcasts. So I really, really do appreciate that. And with that, I want to just again say thank you to all of the people who commented all night. Thank you to Paulie Campione as part of Collecting and Connecting, a Good Vibes community, as well as to, again, thank you, Mekka Don. I hope you have a wonderful, happy, and healthy and safe Christmas, New Year's, and holiday season.
Thank you. Same to you, man. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. So for Mekka Don, I'm Ethan Greenberg, and you have been tuned in to Going nuCLEar, full-blown coverage of the land.